Hey everyone, Michelle here from Scrappy Soul Sister, and I am working on my first November limited edition kit layout. And I don't know if you've seen my process video, or I'm sorry, my unboxing video for this kit, but it is full of curiosities in Willow Grove. So I'm really excited to play with it. And first, I wanted to do something with this paper that came in the kit. Now it was a solid, right? It was like this, but I cut 3 strips out of it. I might cut one more, we'll see. But I was going to just use those coming down here, and then I pulled some punches. I have a little flower, a little heart, and a butterfly, and I was going to cut some pieces out of, or punch some out of corresponding colors to kind of layer on. So that is my current plan. I wanted to do some mixed media behind it. I thought I pulled my swatches for my 49 and Market inks. I will either do the colors that are in the squares, or I might do mint with maybe the pink shell, and maybe the cappuccino, something along those lines, since there's mint chill in this paper. So that part is kind of up in the air still. My picture is of my puppy Delilah. Now, the other day I got an update for my phone, and it has all sorts of fun puppy little things you can play with, and as far as AI goes. And so I loved this gallery picture of her with a little scarf and sunglasses. I thought that was super cute. And so I think I'm going to use this, though I might shrink it. Definitely going to try to play with the color to see if I can tone down the red a little bit. So I might shrink it and add just a couple more photos. I have a couple others that were really cute. If I do that, I might use the frames, and I probably will use some of the feathers on this layout. A few flowers, and then I went through the titles, and I like this love time spent with you. And so that is my current plan. I'm using Vicki Boutin foundation paper here, so I don't need to worry about adding gesso or anything along those lines. So yeah, so let's see where this goes. The first thing I'm going to do is I take my little hearts. I decided just to go with hearts. My other 2 shapes were a little on the big side. Oh, you'll see a little bit of my hair. Sorry about that. And so I'm covering about half of them with glossy accents, just so they have a little bit of a sheen. And there are some hearts in the laser cut elements as well, but I really specifically wanted the colors to match um, the pattern paper little blocks. And so now I'm using Vicky's foundation paper for this, and I'm just putting little lots of ink and a little bit of water on my plastic there and applying that to either side. And so this is the mint chill. Excuse me. And it is a pretty easy way to apply the color onto your paper. And then I'm just using a stencil brush to drag some of that wet liquid through this barbed wire stencil. And so it's going to be pretty subtle, but you'll be able to see some of that shape peeking out from the edges. Now, this other color that I just added, I believe is cappuccino. And then the third is the salted caramel. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it was cappuccino. Checking my little cards here, and yeah. And so doing the same as far as dragging it through my little barbed wire stencil there, blotting up some of the color. I do a couple different go rounds with this just so that there's some layered color. This next go round, I'm using my stamping block. I do like using this as well. The color tends to stay on it instead of dripping off. And so when you're trying to be a little bit more specific as far as where you want the color, it's a good tool to use. And then I also wanted that color to be a little deeper. So I'm doing the same with the cappuccino. And you'll see off to the left there, it was a little bit dark down in that bottom corner, but I kind of like those dots. And so I let that dry there for a little bit. But in the end, I don't know um, if you see it on the video, I realize that little dark spot down there really doesn't have anything sitting on it. And so I do knock it back with some gesso. And so if you're looking at this a little bit later in the process, that's why it's a little bit more faded. I am taking the ink and I just am using my brayer there to add it onto my stamp. Now, the color that I'm using, I believe I used, it wasn't strawberry pie. I think it was the watermelon for that. And then I take some of the purple, so the lavender kisses. I do add a little bit of color to from my stash, and I do add a little bit of cappuccino to it just to make it a little closer to the color in the swatches. And so I'm dragging this through a stencil that I have in my stash. I really like this stencil. And I'm just doing it at the top and at the bottom. And uh, and I added, actually, I don't know if I mentioned, I added those colors to Tim Holtz uh, texture paste, the translucent one. So I'm going to take some foam tape and I'm going to back my little portraits there. You see I've added a couple pictures, one with Delilah in mock neck sweater, and then the other, a kind of looks more like an oil painting. And then her picture there with the glasses, I was able to knock that red back a little bit, so it's a bit softer. So I'm also getting my little scripts ready there. I went ahead and am running, I believe I used scorched timber to ink the edges for this. And I'm about done with that. And I think I'm close to being done with, oh, nope. One more bit of mixed media because I was looking, actually two more. I was looking and I thought maybe I'll add just a little bit of white on top of my mixed media there. Now, it doesn't really, you don't end up being able to see a lot of it, but it's going to be peeking through in my layout. And so I just used light and fluffy stencil or texture paste through this Vicky Bouton floral stencil. Then I'm going to let that dry. And then the other thing I'm going to do isn't actually to the background. It is to these lace looking pieces that come from the laser cut elements. I want to frame my strips with it. So I start with a couple of purples there. You see the um, seedless preserve and the Dusty Concord, and then I come back and add a couple of uh, blue and that aged mahogany distress, because it felt like it just needed to be, it needed a little bit more bluish purple in it, and it needed the brightness toned down a little bit. And so then it matches my texture paste really, really well. I have a change of heart about my title. So the one that I was going to use, I didn't end up liking the blue with all the other colors I have going on. So I used some letter dies that I have in my stash and the black pattern paper that is kind of has floral motif to it. And I cut out Strike a Pose. And so I had two different styles of letter dies, so a smaller and a large. The large I used for the pose, and I also cut all those letters out twice out of a thin chipboard so that I can kind of create my own thickers. I layer those up together. So this is what I have so far. Here is how it's going to look with the lacy edges, and you can see how it kind of is a good separation between those strips and the background. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that adhered together. And I believe I will go ahead and adhere all these together as well, just so I can move it as a whole. So the center one, I'm going to go ahead and mount up on foam. Going to use liquid adhesive from my Sweet Petunia glue gun, as well as my ATG gun, so that it sticks down really well and then it will dry and stick to that mixed media. Now, my Sweet Petunia glue gun, the glue I'm currently using is art glitter glue, and I've really liked that so far. It flows really well out of the glue gun and it sticks really well, so I am quite happy with it. So now I'm just going to see, kind of get an idea of where I want my letters to go. I know I want them to go under my photo. I take a couple different looks at how I want her portraits to go, and so that ends up changing. I'm going to go ahead and put my little hearts up here and color block those. And then I think that I am just about ready to start doing some embellishment. And I know, okay, I know there's a lot going on. This layout, even for me, uh, is quite busy. I try to, really have everything make sense, and it was so fun to put together. And I wanted it to be a little fanciful because obviously the pictures are very fanciful, so it's not something I can take real seriously. Um, but I end up just doing two embellishment clusters. You'll see that one off to the left, and that is pretty much how that one is going to look. I might add another flower and then a word phrase and a couple of hearts over there as well. The flowers that come in the kit really, really match this collection, this Willow Globe collection really well. And so I'm really happy with how that cluster up there to the left turns out. Now I need something for my letters to sit on, and so I decided to use this tag. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to orient it, and I decide to go with this. And then it's going to just kind of rest in that embellishment that's going to sit over there to the right. Going to go ahead and use my little Xyron to apply adhesive for it. And as you can see, I am working on figuring out how it is all going to fit. So I have a strike of pose for my little cutie, and I that's pretty much how it is going to look. I'm going to move my letters over so I have room on my strip there for a few more um, hearts. And then I'm going to take a look at how I want to build that other cluster. It's going to be pretty similar to the one I created on the left. And on this layout, um, I am going to build the clusters, and then I won't make you watch me glue everything down, as I say, as I am gluing down that centerpiece. But for the most part, um, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down my title, but when it comes to the embellishment clusters, I will go ahead and do a lot of that gluing off camera. All right, so I have the bottom lined up, and as you can see, I've gone ahead and adhered on my title, and I have added quite a bit of the embellishments off to the right there that I plan on using. I have also added a word phrase collecting everyday moments over there to the left. I've added photos from today over there to the right, as well as all of my embellishments, similar to what I did over to the left. And then off camera, I am going to add just a few little labels, figure 1, figure 6, figure 10, to my photos. And I'm going to add some gold glitter, and that is going to be it. So thank you for joining me today. Check out my creative scrapbook, and here are some close-ups.